You're listening to the Yoga for Balance podcast. I'm your host, Heather Jurdy. Thank you for listening. This week on the podcast, I once again speak with Mariah Slingerland of Encinitas, California. Mariah dives into what energy healing is. We break it down, including talking about Reiki, what you might experience as a student, both in a class or in a one-on-one Reiki session, what that might feel like as a healer and as you start to cultivate a closer connection to energy. Learn how Reiki and energy healing helped Mariah when other modalities and treatments weren't. If you're at all curious about Reiki, about how this might help you, if you're stuck, if you're feeling like there's something maybe you just haven't tried, then this is the interview for you. Thank you so much and enjoy.
I wanted to discuss energy healing and what does that mean? Mm-hmm. What is the definition of energy healing? And can you call it energy medicine? It's known as all these different, terms. It's not just energy healing. And what does it mean to be an energy healer? Mm-hmm. And my first experience with Reiki that I shared in the last podcast, my first experience with Reiki, as soon as a woman laid her hands on me, I knew everything about it. I didn't have to go to a teacher to understand what was happening when you were in a Reiki session. And I believe that because of that experience, because I understood without being told that it came straight from the divine. It was a divine awakening in my soul. It's for me to understand and to know what energy is. And then I just dove in from there. I had to know everything that I could find out or discover about energy healing. And I took the route of Reiki just because that was my experience. And as I grew to learn and try other techniques, cranial sacral and reconnection and healing touch, and there's all these beautiful modalities out there. And I think the main ingredient for all of them is this underlining unconditional love that we really need to learn how to harness for ourselves, and then share that through whatever healing technique we tend to want to gravitate towards.
So for different people, different modalities. And that's interesting you brought up the cranial sacral, because someone, one of my students in my last class was just talking about that, how she did Reiki. She knows someone who also does that therapy, but for her, the Reiki was what was much more profound. She had done it with a son of hers and had just learned so much about herself, him through that, and had such a better understanding of where she was going. And that actually surprised me, because when I think Reiki, I'm thinking, oh, we're looking at the chakras, and there was just so much that it sounded like it came out of her session than I would have expected to get out of a Reiki session. So yeah, I guess if we can unpack that a little bit, what do you think most people expect to get out of Reiki, and what do they end up getting actually?
Right. What do we expect? We expect, depending on the person who's introducing us to the idea of Reiki, if we've never even heard it, we're going to hear stories about their experiences. And I think the most profound thing is to come from a place of being open. And I think from the people that I've worked with and had these these beautiful sessions with, I think the underlying thing of all that is everyone gets what they need in the session. And I know for me as a Reiki master and teacher, if I'm going to teach Reiki, if I'm going to take on a student, then it's really important for me as a teacher, as the master, to master what energy healing is. And you go through this process of purifying. You purify your body, you purify your mind, you purify everything. And it's not always pleasant. But in order to, I've always felt that the cleaner that my physical body is, the cleaner that my mind is, the more profound the experiences are. And Reiki it's just been a calling for me from the beginning. And so, yeah, what can you expect from it? Well, it depends on who you go to. I know that here's the perfect example. When I first started practicing Reiki, when I was a Reiki practitioner, I was dealing with things in my own life. So maybe I was dealing with a sensitive subject of molestation in my life. And so everybody that would come see me was dealing with the same thing. This teaches us the energy and the vibration of what you're putting out there, you're going to attract. So as I was working through my own healing around that topic, I also was attracting people that needed that same thing. And as I broke through and made it through that circumstance or that characteristic in my life, then the next one would come up. Then the next one would come up. So I began to see this pattern of whatever I was working through, I would actually attract those exact clients. And now I'm to the place where I can be open, because I've had enough experiences to make myself open to whatever a person needs. I feel like there are tools that I have from past experiences that we can help them work through.
But it took you some time to get through those things and to process and to gain that wisdom, so through the years, now you're able to take that seat and be the channel for whatever it is that's needed.
It's exactly right. It was this purification process that was years in the making. Mm-hmm. And it was only until I started to recognize how it was working and what I was attracting, and realizing that's really the premise behind, the world is what we think it is, and then the world becomes exactly that, right? It's like, it's our perceptions of what we're putting out there we're receiving back. It's our energy that we put out there, and we receive that back. So it was this beautiful process of purification, and many trips to India, and many, meditations, and a daily practice of all these things. And now that I have a energy healing practice, I can use all those tools: meditation, Reiki, yoga, whatever it is. So when people come and find themselves on my table, I have a wide range of things to help with.
Yes, I think that's much in the same, like you're saying, of yoga classes. You're going to resonate, just another tool in the toolbox. The people are coming in that you're bringing things through, the lessons that, are attached to that class, or a theme that you're doing. And I think people can feel that wisdom coming through you if you really can speak from that experience. I think that really rang true in our last conversation. If it might just not be true for you yet, but people, that wisdom, when I've learned something, I can teach that from a much more genuine space because I've lived it through my own body. It's one thing, or my own experience. It's one thing to read it in a book, to learn it in a training, or to hear a teacher say something once, but unless you've actually experience that, It doesn't feel right coming through as a theme, coming through,
Exactly. It's along the lines of what happened when we were in meditation class and your friend came through, right? Your beautiful friend that had a message for you and came through in I think it was about looking for the birds outside your window. Is that about right? And so that's what begins to happen is when what happens is everything is energy. Everything that is energy. We hold energy and we store energy in our physical body. We store it in your energy centers. If you are familiar with your chakras, we store energy there. We store energy in our joints. We store them in our organs. And I got to a place, and my gift with Reiki was to be able to feel that energy to help people really channel their awareness to where that energy is, and then to be able to, extract it or pull it out or dissolve it, whatever that is. And just like with you and your friend, that is an energy that we can tap into, that we all have this beautiful ability to tap into this energy and to receive messages and to understand, I like to say, the secrets of the universe. It's like I go into dinner parties or situations with people that I might not know, and within 2 minutes, a person has told me their whole life story. It happens a lot. And I intuitively, or I'm not sure what the right term was, but I know exactly how to help them. I know exactly what would help them if they found the courage or whatever that it takes to try something that they might not understand, that they might not have heard of before. But I know for me, when I found myself in a place where I knew traditional modalities was not going to work, going to the doctor, taking a pill, I had already done that. I had already tried that route and it didn't work for me. So this was just another level of that.
And someone may see, a Reiki offering on a schedule. I'm trying to think, how might most people have an opportunity to be introduced to Reiki? So people may see like a yin and Reiki class on their yoga schedule, or may see a Reiki practitioner within their circles, within their community, and their interest is piqued. What would be the difference between someone taking a Reiki class in a more public setting and having a one-on-one session with a healer?
Well, it would depend on the person who's facilitating the class and who's facilitating, and being able to channel that energy. And I think for me, I can hold space for many people to experience many different things. When I used to teach yoga, I would walk around and put my hands on people, and they knew or could feel some sort of reaction, a physical reaction happening in their body. And then when you get to a private setting, for me, the experiences are more profound in the sense that the practitioner can really focus on the client or, the receiver of this energy and really get to the bottom of what it is they're experiencing and how it is that you can really help them get to the other side of what they're being challenged with at the moment.
And what might so looking at both sides of the coin from a practitioner standpoint, let's say you have that one-on-one session, what, like you said, you might feel a little jolt or something. What else might that person experience in this session? And then from your perspective, how does that energy feel? Like, how do you feel that surge in that place? Or what ticks you off to, the energy is stronger here or imbalanced here? I love you to just kind of walk through that for someone. Myself personally, I feel connected to energy, but I don't know if I'm as sensitive to it as some other people in my life. Like Juan is crazy sensitive to energies and even seeing aura light and things like that. So how might one start to even recognize that connection, that recognition of energy, that feeling in the body, if I'm the student or you as this practitioner actually doing the work? How does that energy come through?
Oh, let's go to the definition of Reiki. What is Reiki? Well, the definition of Reiki is Rei, R-E-I, means spiritually guided. And then Ki, K-I, or Chi, C-H-I, or Prana, it's all the same thing. It's your life force energy. So what is Reiki? Spiritually guided life force energy. All right, so to most of us, we go, huh? I don't understand what that means. And it might be a little bit woo-woo for some people, especially this beautiful left brain woman that came to me last week. It was a little bit hard for her to grasp. But take that aside. What happens in a Reiki session is that when our physical body is quiet, you're laying on a massage table, you have your clothes on, you're covered with a blanket, you're feeling nice and safe and secure, and you're just in this place where you start to really relax. And when the physical body begins to relax, it can let its guard down and let the energy start coming in and shifting. So what happens with me is that once the energy, as a practitioner, it feels as if I'm just a conduit for energy to flow through me. It flows through me in a way, it comes up my feet, it comes down my head, and then it goes out my hands and out the palms of my hands, and then it goes wherever I touch. And the feeling, the sensation I feel in me is almost like a pins and needles feeling in the palms of my hands, or my hands might get really hot. And then over, say, a minute or two, wherever I've placed my hands, the energy will subside, and then I know it's time to move on. And this is just, it becomes something that you really start to learn and trust what it is. It's like you have to shut off your thinking logical brain, and you just let your hands start doing the work. You let your hands start, moving where they need to go. And so a lot of times in sessions, when people have a trauma that they're dealing with, like they're dealing with a certain struggle, like let's just say they're dealing with some sort of struggle, and how it shows up for some people is their body starts holding the energy somewhere. So if I put my hand somewhere, let's go to a specific, because I think examples really help to drive the message home, really, is a woman was dealing with this pain in her back, like a real sharp pain in the middle of her back. So as soon as I put my hand on that pain, she could feel a knife. And so I posed the question, and she had said, it's like a knife pain in my back. Oh, okay, if you have a knife in your back, well, let's remove the knife. So I'm going to let you do it, because given the person the power to heal themselves is really a lot more empowering than me doing it for them. So there was this energy of this knife being stuck in the back. And as soon as she visualized herself pulling the knife out of her back, she understood and recognized that she had this dear friend who she felt like really stabbed her in the back. And there was this energetic wound from that. And it was the most profound thing to watch somebody and to really understand that our physical body, all of the things that happen to us physically start mental and emotional way back when, and then it starts manifesting physically within us when we can't get over it, when we can't find ourselves like really being able to deal with and let the situation go. So our physical body will hold it until, we find somebody that can help us with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're, kind of helping people to bring the awareness to those places where they're hanging on to that energy. And then let's say, okay, you found, so in that moment you were able to help her visualize taking that knife out. So looking at the different areas, if something is popping up, what other ways would you say you recommend? You kind of brought it up already. It would meditate, if something's in the head and their head is hurting them, meditation could be a tool. So, and empowering people, like you said, helping them to heal themselves. So walking away from one of these sessions, what might some of your recommendations be for people to find that balance of their energy or work through blocks?
I think the biggest thing that I always recommend to people is to have a daily practice, to really start a daily practice. And we can say that, and we can try all these 21-day meditations, 21-day, yoga practice, or all these different things that pop up in our awareness, 21 days to freedom, whatever we see. And it's really taking responsibility and wanting it bad enough to actually change is really what makes it start to happen. And once you get to a certain point, when you don't do the practice, you are very aware that something's not right. Something's different about my day. I haven't been here in a long time. I haven't felt this way in a long time. What's different? Oh, I didn't do my practice today. So a lot of times when people leave, I like to give them suggestions on things. Like this woman that came last week, we both had this profound moment where I could feel the energy of Nikola Tesla coming through. And this woman was very scientific, and she knows energy. And so when I held her hand, her and I both had the same thought that writing would be her tool. That actually physically sitting down and writing would be her tool to actually write down what she was feeling. And through that process, she could heal all those things that were stuck within her.
And that came through the session. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So everybody gets something different. Everybody gets exactly what they need, not necessarily what they want. And sometimes it's a process, and sometimes it happens in this spontaneous healing moment. And that's happened before too.
And what might a spontaneous healing moment look like?
Okay, this is intense, but here's what it looks like. I had a dear friend that we had lost touch for, I'm going to say maybe 15 years. And we reconnected. We saw each other walking down the street, and we reconnected, and she says, "Hey, what are you doing? Let me tell you about what I'm doing." So we got together, and she did what she does on me. And it's, I believe she called it reconnection. So I'm laying there on her table, and I recorded it because I knew that no matter what I choose to do for my own healing, or I love to try different people's modalities, I knew that I would be able to say out loud what was happening, and that I would want that to go back to. So I was laying there, and I'd had all these issues come up in my life, and really being able to see clearly what the issue truly was and how to move past it. So it was like a movie playing out in front of me. And then as I was laying there, I could feel the energy of Jesus come into the room, just as an energy. And could feel the energy of Jesus, and I had recorded it, so I was speaking out loud. Oh, Jesus is here. It just sounds so funny to even hear myself talk about it, but that's what happened. And the message was, I'm putting like placing these fireballs in my hands and telling me that I'm giving you the gift of spontaneous healing, and I'll tell you when you can use it. And I thought, okay, cool. Well, that's exciting. And I never really, I just trusted that I would know what was happening when it was happening. So fast forward, I'm not even sure how long, maybe 6 months, and a woman had come to me, and she, all of her tests were pointing to a reoccurrence of breast cancer, that she was a 4-year survivor. 5 years is the golden number, and she was on 4 years and started feeling like things weren't quite right. And so she was getting ready for her PET scan, and somehow she had talked to, found me through a neighbor, and the neighbor says, try this before, you do anything. So she laid on my table, and I stood at her feet for maybe 60 minutes, and we didn't speak a word. And when she was done, she says, I don't know what just happened. And I said, I'm not sure either. But that was a Friday, and Monday she went for her PET scan. Monday night, got the call, her body was all clear, but yet her blood tests were showing that she wasn't. So that's, I guess, what spontaneous healing is. It's a moment in time where two people believe that anything is possible, and that possibility happened.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I think it's that trust, that finding that person, like you said. I think just the same as a yoga class, you can take a hatha, a vinyasa class, and go to 2 different studios with 2 different teachers or spaces, or practice online, or however, and have a completely different experience. But when you're open to trusting the process, that teacher, that healer, and that allows you to go into a space, it's powerful. And the same thing, going back to you talking about holding things in, I'll hear students crying sometimes in class in pigeon pose. I'm sure everyone's heard someone cry in pigeon pose at some point. And I know it's just that release. They finally allowed themselves, and that's my, I do, in a way, I'm glad that person was able to release whatever it is they need to, because I'm really trying to safely guide them to that place where it's okay to unclench that tension you're hanging on to recognize this is something I'm holding on to. I'm going to finally let it go, and then to just feel the relief after that. Like you said, it maybe isn't pretty. It might look a little messy or be a little scary, but to feel the relief after that you let yourself go there, that you trusted to let that go, it's really powerful.
And to that point, is it, thank goodness you're even setting the intention and really taking people, having the guts to take people there is the power of the practitioner. And that's what you're doing, is you hold this space for somebody when they come in to, if I'm going to take you in pigeon pose and you're going to have a release, then I am going to put all of my love into this room so you feel safe to do that. And thank God we have places like that where we can actually release this stuff. Because the other thing that I knew from my first Reiki experience is that we hold grief and shame and guilt in our hips. So when we lose loved ones, that pain sits in our hips. You know, when we're holding on to guilt, we store it, right? Like we store it in our hips. We store it as baggage. We carry it around with us. And yeah, that shame, I had to work through that one. That was one of the hardest ones to work through. And it's one of the lowest vibrational energies there is. It's just above death, which is amazing that we don't look more at that when we talk about healing the body.
And so in Tantra and in shamanism, and one thing that we worked on in Ecuador was this idea of, and we've talked about this in our meditations and what you've guided me through, of really charging our own batteries, being 100% within our own energy fields. And, you know, I think often, especially if you're in a relationship, a close relationship, people think 50-50, I need that other half, I need my better half, you know? And the idea in Tantra and shamanism, and Yera even spoke to this in her podcast interview, is that I need to be 100% myself. So I would love to hear your perspective on that, you know, ways that, do you believe that's true, that, you know, we need to charge our own energy and maintain that energy within ourselves so that we can kind of show up in the world and be of service to other people? And especially as a healer, where we are, and we've talked about this a little, like constantly giving out, kind of being there for people. How do we protect and recharge our own batteries?
I absolutely 100% agree with that it's necessary to serve from a full cup. It's necessary to serve, and we are doing a disservice to the people that come to us if we aren't 100%. If we are less than 100%, then I take what I do as an honor and a true gift. And if I'm going to see somebody, I'm going to make sure that I do my practice in the morning before they come. So a lot of people don't understand. It takes me anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours to get through my morning practice before I can even see people. And when I try and make that go faster, or just say, oh, maybe not today, I'll just try it without, it's a noticeable difference. So serving from a full cup is, there are moments where we might not be able to do what it is that, and feel a little bit down, our energy low, and then we just get susceptible and more susceptible to serving. We get irritable, we get anxious, we get like all qualities that aren't divine, right? We start getting judgmental, and we do all these things, and then we think, oh wait, let me get back to my center. My center looks different than other people's centers, I promise you, because all of us have a different center, right? All of us have a different playing field that we play on. So for me, it's doing meditation every day, to say prayers every day, to really channel this energy and be in this energy of service. How can I serve today? Show me, bring to me the people that I meant to serve today. And I take what I do very seriously. I don't try and pretend. If I'm not 100%, we'll reschedule, because I don't feel like I can give my best self to somebody when I'm not 100%. It's a lot like when you're on the airplane and they go through the safety rules and they say, put on your mask first and then your child's. It's the same in motherhood. It's the same as a spouse. It's the same as a friend. If I am 100%, I can be there in ways that I can't be there if I'm not. And that's where I really honor the practice.
How might someone recognize if they've never tried Reiki, they've never gone to a Reiki class or a Reiki practitioner, how might they recognize that something is off and it could really benefit from taking a look?
Well, I would say that where Reiki can really benefit is when like a situation keeps coming up over and over and over again for you. When you're dealing with a loss of a loved one that left you sideways, that left you shattered, divorce, anxiety, depression, those are all energies that once you recognize what it feels like and what you're doing when you're holding on to that energy, that's when you break through. That's when you really go, oh my gosh, why am I carrying this around? And some people that are very empathic, that really feel energy. This is the one thing that I didn't understand before my awakening, was that I was really empathic. I could walk into a room. I knew what couples were fighting. I knew which ones were belonging together, which ones didn't. I could just read a room. And then it got exhausting where I didn't want to go anywhere because I didn't want to feel everyone's energy. So as an empath, or when we're empathic, when we have a lot of empathy, we feel things. We feel things for others. So that has happened more times than I can even explain to people, is that some people actually feel things way deeper than others. Like, have you ever had a friend that had a loss and you're like, get over it already? And yet they can't seem to find, their way out of it. It's because they're very empathic. And when, like, I know people in both worlds, and, the ones that have a harder time dealing with loss or have a harder time dealing with those tougher energies, it's because they're so susceptible to energy, right? Yeah.
What, just from now working in this field, kind of from where you started to where you are now, what other things have you learned about energy that you wish people listening knew? And how has the idea and how it plays a role in your life, how's that changed over the years, both as a practitioner and now as someone who's using this as a healing modality with your clients?
I would say that when I started learning about Reiki, when I started learning about energy healing, when I started learning that there was this thing out there that people in the medical profession weren't necessarily looking at. I would say when you get to the point and you've gone to the doctors and they can't figure out what's wrong with you, like me, when you're at your wit's end and you're not sure where to turn, I think that's when we can really look at Reiki or energy healing as a viable solution for people. And one of I think for me, one of the most profound moments was when someone came to me and they were dealing with the loss of a brother, and not only was the loss tragic, but the events that happened after that because of this loss, now the family was together again. And so that caused this guilt. So now you have two energies that you're dealing with. You're dealing with grief and loss, and then you're dealing with guilt. And all that energy stores in our hips. Like, this is what I want people to understand, is that we hold energy in certain parts of our body, and that's what I know. That's what I know is I know, like, oh, I'm going to go after their hips because I know where you're going to store that. I'm going to go after your shoulders because I know where you're going to store that. Your ankles, your knees. Oh my gosh, the knees. But helping somebody have the realization that, oh my gosh, I'm really, like, my body's holding on to this. This is what's causing me to have to go to the chiropractor once a week because my hips keep pulling out. Like, our body talks to us. And it'll tell you exactly what's wrong if you know how to listen. If you're not sure, then come see somebody that knows what they're doing and really understands what the physical body is capable of and how it is that we can really shift and change certain energies in us. And it's all of these things it's all about energy. It's like, I can't stress that enough. And it might not be something that we can understand. We don't have the machine that can, put up on the screen like a MRI machine, like what's happening here. But it's an experience. That the experience brings the wisdom and the truth for you. It's not about anything other than that.
And let's say someone doesn't have access to a Reiki practitioner near where they are, is there anything that someone could just try at home to start getting more in tune with this? And I know that is stage 1 of Reiki, is learning how to do it on yourself. So that, obviously, if you have the opportunity, you're really interested in this, see if you can find a Reiki training, of course, and learn. Right. So step 1 is learning to do it on yourself, and then you start moving down the path of learning how to share it with others and work with others. Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what, when you find, if you discover that, okay, this is really profound in my life. I want to learn more about this. I want to learn and take a class. Then you can take a class and learn. And the first step is healing the self. And the second step is healing yourself and others. And then you go on to master, and then you go on to master teacher, and all these different steps. But one thing, let's just take when you were a child and you fell. What was the first thing that you do? You look at the wound or the scrape or whatever, and you put your hands on it. Instinctively, you put your hands on it. You cover up or you hold. Okay, that tells you right there that instinctively we know what's going to make us feel better just by laying our hands on our wounds. So my advice would be, when it's quiet, when you jump into bed and you're getting ready to lay down, if you have something brewing in you, like an upset stomach or, a sore neck or whatever, close your eyes, put your hand on it, and ask a simple question. What is this from? And see what happens. Have your own experience. Maybe you'll feel some sort of tingling or heat. The one woman who recently came to me and I started training her, she loves to put her hands over her eyes, her face, because the sensitivity of your face, you can really feel the heat coming out of your hands. And so that's like how she knows when her energy is turned on, is just by putting her hands over her face.
And I can attest to that. I remember feeling the heat radiating from your hands when we would do a guided meditation, corporate meditation is how we met. And I could literally feel the heat coming through the hands into whatever part of my body. And it can be done right, hands-on or not hands-on. So maybe it's literally just kind of that energy traveling across. So it doesn't even necessarily need to be, if you're not comfortable, for instance, having hands on you, you could talk to the practitioner about that.
Exactly. Yeah, there is, and it's, as a practitioner, it's knowing what that level of comfort is for the person that's laying on your table. And the heat that comes out of my hands becomes more intense sometimes when I hover rather than actually touch. But like in the corporate class yesterday, this woman was really needing human touch, because that's how our cells reproduce. Our cells reproduce by human touch. And obviously by a loving touch. But she was really needing that. So as soon, as I just touched her, the release that was happening. So it's just being comfortable with, if you're going to come see me, I'm not going to shy away from or run from something that I know that, needs to happen.
And kind of stepping in as that person being led through that experience, stepping into the experience. And exactly, if I see a student crying, I'm giving them that space. I'm going to continue providing that nurturing environment. But allowing, I think Sean Corn, I had taken a master class with her, and she made a comment that I asked her a question about this, about kind of going and leaning into that darkness and the places that can be scary, and facing what comes up, unlocking, releasing. And I had asked her about that, and how do we find that balance of the light and the dark, and going there. And she goes, some of the lightest people I know are some of the darkest people I know, because they go there, they dig into the darkness, they lose the shame. It's seeing our shadows without the shame, I think, is where there's a lot of power.
Yeah, it's true. And when we're not afraid to go deeper, when we're not afraid to look at all those things that exist within us, I mean, we can deny it all we want, but each of us have that light and dark. Each of us have all of those things. And when we can get to the place where we can really embrace that less than, the things that you wouldn't necessarily go out and show everybody, but when we can get to the place where we can recognize and really embrace what that is, we can help others do the same.
Beautiful. Is there anything else that you wish people listening at home or in their cars would know about this world, and especially if this is kind of new concept to them?
Oh, I know. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't let your fear keep you from trying something new. Like, I've never been afraid to try something new. I might walk away going, well, that was interesting. I probably wouldn't do that again. But I've never been afraid to try something new, because I believe that when we step outside of what we think, needs to happen, I believe when we open ourselves up into trying something new, that's when magic happens. That's when true healing happens, when you walk in going, I have no idea why I'm here. I don't know what I'm going to get out of this, but I'm willing to try. And I think those are the most profound sessions that I have, is like, that is the true nature of surrender. When you've got nowhere else to turn and you don't even have to be there. That's the beauty of it. Is like, you don't even have to get yourself there. When you don't feel right and you're not sure how to get out of it, that's when you seek something like this. When you're dealing with the same thing over and over and over again and you can't find your way out of it, it might just be something that's like a knife stuck in your back, or a sword stuck down your arm, or we've a spiky ball in your ankle, all these, a thorn in your throat. I mean, all these have profound symbolic awarenesses that once you start digging into it, it's like very easy to see, but we can't see it because we're in it. And we need somebody else to help us see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. No, it's so true. And sometimes we just need that guy. I was just talking, I had a private today, someone who was in town visiting from Fresno, and she had said the same, I can practice yoga. And talking to a friend as well yesterday from one of my previous jobs, and he was asking and curious about yoga. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you know yoga, can't you just do it at home? And if you know the stretches, can't you just get into them? I'm like, yeah, but there is the thing about being guided, about showing up, not knowing what you need. And maybe, to your point, as that teacher, as that healer, I know I see a profound impact in my classes when I have done my meditation in the morning, my practice, ideally yoga, some movement, walking my dog, my meditation, what we've talked about in the last episode. Going through my personal practices, I feel that come through my classes. I can tell I am listening. I can listen to the students. I hear what they need coming through more. And I'm that clear channel versus walking into the room with the things I still needed to go through that day and to clear up and to come back to my clean slate, my homeostasis. Mm-hmm. So same thing, as a student, coming with an open mind and having a space. And there's something so powerful about that outer accountability, whether it's a teacher that you love and that you find, and which you're not going to find unless you go out there and try new teachers. So again, trying something different. It can take a lot of guts, stepping into a room not knowing what experience you're about to get led through, whether that teacher is going to be a style you like or not. But with something nowadays like ClassPass or social media, just being able to kind of do your research, looking around to find the one person or the space or community that resonates with you, and to take a chance on that, walking into that room not knowing what you might expect. I'm very rarely proved wrong, or I very rarely walk away from a new experience like you said. Maybe I might not do that again, but I get something out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, just try something new. Because whatever, like if you find yourself in a place where I've tried all these other things and nothing's been working yet, okay, maybe it's time to try something new. And I think that's where I think I really can help you and help everybody that comes to me, is like, that's when you have the most profound experiences, because you haven't tried something like this before. And and it's totally new. You go to yoga and like you said, you like, okay, I know yoga, and you'll have a different experience with a teacher, right? And you'll have this new experience, and you can tell when somebody's soul is on fire. You can tell when somebody's like, yeah, I'm going to give you everything I got today as a teacher, right? And that's the space that I get in when somebody comes to see me for Reiki. I'm going to give you everything I got. I'm not going to tone it down. I'm just going to give you everything I have, because I know you're here for that. Right? And so it's that as a teacher, it's that as a practitioner, it's that in life. I'm going to give it everything I've got.
And I think as that healer, as that student, realizing not everyone is for everyone either. I was just listening to a podcast on the way over talking about that. This extremely creative man who went to college, dropped out. Now he's a professor at that college, and he's worked for years in the industry and has done major ad campaigns. And yeah, it's like not being afraid to show genuinely, authentically who we are, to give it our all as a teacher. This is the way I know how to present the information, that I know how to be a channel, and to share these sacred practices, and knowing it's okay to walk away if that just doesn't resonate with you. Not everyone is going to resonate with everyone. And as a teacher, not trying to appease and appeal to everyone, because then you might not appeal to anyone in specific, if you're just blanketing yourself out there to try to please.
Right. I think it's really profound. And there's so much truth to what you say in that moment, is like to be able to recognize that some people just aren't there. Some people are going to believe what they're going to believe, and they're not going to try anything new. And then it's almost like you can feel the ones that, maybe someday down the road or somewhere along the line, you'll be able to really to be able to help that person. And I think where I find myself most, where we talked about in the beginning, we talked about, okay, how I attracted all these different clients, and now my clients seem to be at this crossroads, either in their life or with their physical body, but they're at some sort of crossroads where traditional practices have not served them, and they need something else. And so just recognizing that's the zone that I might be in at this point, is to understand and to recognize that's what I can feel. It's like, oh, okay, so have you thought about this? Have you tried this? And okay, come on, let's do it. Like that kind of place, instead of, because I think at some point in our journey, we have to find ourselves in that vulnerable space. At some point in our journey, we have to recognize what it is that we've gone through so we can help others. And my most profound moment was when I was at a crossroads. And now that I've worked through those issues and found myself in a place, now I can help others that are in a crossroads. And then sometimes it's, people come to me just for tune-ups. They like to call them spiritual tune-ups. So little energetic tune-ups, just like we do with our cars. It's the same thing. We need to tune up our energy. We need to clean our energy. We need to make sure, springtime is the perfect time for that little spring cleaning.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's, that first time, like you said, trying that thing new for the first time is probably the hardest part, is saying I'm going to take a chance on trying this thing I've been hearing about that this universe keeps crossing my path, this thing that keeps popping up, Reiki. Okay, maybe this is time for me to give this a try. That first time is going to be the hump to get over. Probably that first session going to be perhaps the most enlightening, especially if you're carrying years of baggage with you and things that have happened and experiences that you're hanging on to in the body. Maybe if you've been practicing yoga for some time or doing these other practices, you've kind of been chipping away at it, but there's still something deep down. But then once you get past that first session or 2 or 3, then, you get to the point where it's more tuning up. And yeah, the work is hard at the beginning, but then once you can get to that place where, like you said, you can charge your own battery, you're taking response. I think there's so much freedom in realizing we aren't victims, that we are the author of our story. We can rewrite it at any time and change our perspective, our history, the way we're explaining ourselves, what we're sharing with our teachers, what we're bringing into that room as a student. Starting to take some responsibility for that, I think, is really freeing.
Mm-hmm. And to recognize too that taking responsibility is a huge part of where we're at, and also the point of it matters what we say. In the context that not only do our words matter, but our story matters. So if you walk around and you're telling your story like I did over and over and over again, you just keep yourself in that place. You keep yourself because you keep calling and giving energy to what it is that's your challenge. And so recognizing that too, that it's taking responsibility, and then just becoming very aware of what it is that our story, like what is our story that we've been telling people, like, oh, I can't get over this. I'm not willing to budge. I'm just going to go for surgery. Yes, I'm going to just, do this because I haven't tried, can't find any. I mean, it's all those things that when we say those things, our physical body believes everything that we tell it. So if we're telling ourselves, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm a horrible friend, if we are repeating that story to ourselves, our physical body will respond to that. And there's no truth greater than that. To me, that is the truth. I've watched it. I've recognized it. I've watched parents do it with their kids, and the things that they say to their kids, like, no, stop saying that. Right? I had a neighbor that loved to call her daughter a bad girl. She would even sing the song "Bad Girl." I'm like, what are you doing? Why would you do that?
Perpetuate that cycle of you're a bad girl, you do bad things. So of course, okay, I'm a bad girl. I'm going to keep doing that bad thing.
You can see how it works on every level. And so when I work with some people, sometimes it's a belief that they were told when they were kids. It's just been stuck in their energetic field, and it's manifested in a cyst, a tumor, a boil, whatever you want to say, whatever it is, but it's manifested itself enough to become physical, and now we got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I have so much great information. Again, so amazing having you on the Yoga for Balance podcast. And of course, if you guys have any other requests related to this content, I'll be posting this across the web. You can find the Yoga for Balance podcast on Instagram. Would love to hear your comments about the episode. Anything else you would like us to dive into, I'll definitely have Mariah on here again to continue exploring these other topics. We'll see what the universe sends us in terms of what our listeners want to hear, what they could use of hearing. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for listening, and thank you for being open to receiving new information. Maybe that wasn't available to you until now, until you're ready to hear it. So yay for listeners.
Yes, and yay for you. Thank you for sharing and for recognizing this need for, information about these things. I think information is so empowering. So understanding really, derailing our thoughts of what something might be and what we need or what we don't need or what we're afraid of. So thank you for having the courage to come on and share what you know and what you've experienced, because I think that's when it really shines through and where people can see how they might be able to benefit. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And for the work you are doing on sharing that energy and your ability to read it and balance and find these things. So, I mean, the work you're doing in person and in real life, if you ever have the chance to work with Mariah, I highly recommend her. And so thank you.
Yep. Come to a session. Come try something new. It's awesome. But it's an experience. That's a beautiful thing. It's like when we're ready to try a new experience, the universe will provide something so profound. It could really change the way you look at things. And it's totally changed the way that I've looked at life, my life, and everyone around me. So thank you for continuing on your path and for knowing and recognizing there's all these beautiful things in the world that we need to start talking about. That the more we can put this, the more that we can put this out there and make this available, the more we can help others really try something, because maybe traditional practices haven't been working for them.
Thank you again, Mariah, for all of that great information. And I hope that you listening at home are enjoying this as well and finding helpful information to incorporate into your life so that you may start finding more balance. As always, appreciate you being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Yoga for Balance podcast if you haven't already, wherever you listen, and help our show grow by leaving a star rating and review while you're there. Until next time.